I came home 20 minutes early from physical therapy and heard my stepson say, "I cut his brake lines. See you at his funeral tomorrow." My wife was sitting across from him at our kitchen table. Neither of them knew I was standing just inside the garage door. For a second, I told myself my ears had betrayed me. 66 years old, decades of impact wrenches and diesel engines behind me. Hearing goes. But that voice came through clean and sharp, like someone had set a speaker against my skull. "Stop saying things like that," Diane said, low. I'm not joking. My hand went tight on the door handle. My right knee was the size of a grapefruit, which was the only reason I'd left therapy early, instead of driving out to the cabin like every other Friday. Cody knew my routine. The whole family did. He'd counted on an empty kitchen. "What exactly did you do?" Diane asked. "I made sure the truck won't get him all the way down the hill. I found the wall with my free hand. My knee wasn't the reason I needed it." "Fix it," she said. "It doesn't work that way." "Then go undo it. He checks that truck every week. If I go crawling under it again, somebody might see." "You said you were only trying to scare him." I said what I needed to say. That second sentence landed harder than the first. The first was a threat on my life. The second told me my wife had known enough to be afraid before I ever walked in. I eased the door open another inch. Cody sat with his back to me in the gray shirt I'd bought him for a job interview 2 years back, calm as a man discussing the weather. Diane's eyes were locked on him, all the color gone from around her mouth. "What happens when the police start asking questions?" "They won't. Old truck, old driver, bad road." That truck was a 2006 Silverado with 190,000 miles, kept in better shape than most people keep their homes. I'd taught Cody to change its oil when he was 17. He knew exactly what it meant to me. "Gerald notices everything," Diane said. "Not anymore," Cody answered. "He forgets where he sets his glasses. Half the family already figures he's slowing down." I nearly walked in and put his face against that table. At 50 I might have. At 66, with a knee that gave out and a hand that went numb, I knew exactly how that would end. He'd deny it, call me confused, and whatever proof existed would vanish before I could stop him. "You signed enough papers," he told her. "What papers?" "Insurance forms, property documents, all of it. I sign loan applications. If you call him, I'll tell the police you helped me. Then you can explain why your name is on everything." I waited for Diane to call my name. 5 seconds. 10. She didn't. That silence cut deeper than anything he'd said. Cody had been 14 when I started dating his mother. His own father already checked out down in Maryville. I never tried to replace Russell. I just wanted to give the boy something solid. Paid part of his trade school tuition. Gave him work sweeping bays at my shop. Found him a lawyer after a DUI at 24. Covered his rent when his boat detailing business folded. Every time I drew a line, Diane asked for one more chance, and I gave it. Standing in that garage, I finally understood what all those chances had taught him. Not gratitude, permission. I backed out to my Buick without letting the door latch click. I didn't start the engine right away. Call the police, I thought. Tell them what? That I'd overheard a private conversation no one would admit to? If Cody realized I'd been standing there, he'd undo whatever he'd done to that truck and make the rest disappear with it. I drove to a diner near Pellissippi Parkway and called Pete Abernathy, who now ran my old shop. "I need a flatbed at my house tonight. Pick up the Silverado without starting it." "What happened?" "I don't know yet. Load it, strap it, don't touch anything underneath." Then I called Russell Puitt, Cody's father. We'd never been close, but the man had spent 40 years under diesel trucks, and I'd never known him to lie about a machine. "I need you to look over the brake system, frame and all." "Is this about Cody?" "I'll explain once you've had a look." At home, Cody was already gone. Diane stood at the sink with her back to the room. "How was therapy?" "Painful." She didn't turn around, didn't offer anything more than a headache and the stares. That was the moment I understood I couldn't protect both my marriage and the truth, not if she wasn't going to help me choose. At 1:52 in the morning, Pete rolled the flatbed in with the lights off. I left the keys in an envelope for Russell. "Check underneath before you call me. A gift from your son, GK." I didn't sleep. At 4:47 a.m., Russell called, his voice strained. The brake line was only the beginning. There's something else under this truck, and I think Cody's been following you for weeks. The rear brake hose had been cut, not through, just enough to weaken it. It might have held through town, he said, but on the grade down toward the lake, under hard braking, the pressure would have finished the job. I knew that road. I could name every gas station on it blind. There's more, Russell said. A magnetic tracker on the rear frame. I haven't touched it. Photographed it from every angle. Good, now stop. You still sound like a shop owner. I sound like a man who doesn't want the evidence ruined. By 5:30, I was at my kitchen table with both hands around a coffee mug, and I called the Knoxville police. Detective Sandra Heck arrived 40 minutes behind the first patrol car. Compact, dark hair, the kind of level expression that makes you weigh every word before you say it. We met at the shop. The Silverado sat under the lights, dust on the wheel wells. Who's had contact with the vehicle? She asked. Pete. Russell, Cody's biological father, I told her, and watched her write that down. I walked her through the kitchen conversation, word for word. Did you record any of it? No. Will your wife back up your account? I honestly can't say. Don't go near your stepson. Don't let him find the truck. People get sloppy when they still think they're holding the cards. At 6:35, Pete's phone buzzed. My front doorbell camera. Cody was on the porch with 2 coffees, staring at the empty driveway where the Silverado should have been. Head home, Heck said. Keep it ordinary. He was leaning against his car when I pulled in, smile stretched thin. Figured I'd drop off coffee before you hit the lake. Black, no sugar. He still remembered how I took it. Nearly undid me. Truck's not here. Made a noise last night. Had it towed. Which shop? Pete's got it. Did he check the rear brakes? The words came a half beat too fast. I gave him a tired smile. At my age, every rattle sounds like the brakes. He laughed, short and cold, and sat in his car for 4 full minutes afterward, phone to his ear, staring straight through the windshield. Diane found me watching from the window. What did Cody want out here? The truck was tampered with, brake hose cut, a tracker underneath. Cody wouldn't. I heard him say it myself. He knew exactly where the damage was. She sank into a chair. He's in over his head, money trouble. He told me the papers were short-term loans. I trust that much. But trust and belief aren't the same currency, I said, and walked out. Detective Heck sat with Diane later that afternoon. Cody had asked whether the house would pass to her outright if I died, and what would happen to the old shop property. That evening Heck called again. The tracker's account had been accessed repeatedly from Cody's phone, and a neighbor's camera had caught someone crouching by my truck 2 nights before. Russell drove up from Maryville with fried chicken, because nobody should make legal decisions on an empty stomach. We ate above the old shop, in the apartment I still kept from my working days. When Cody was 19, he stole checks from me, Russell said. Diane asked me not to press charges. I told myself one more chance would fix him. He looked out at the empty lot. We kept calling it mercy. He learned to call it permission. The next morning, Diane and I sat across from my attorney, Carolyn Voss, who'd handled my affairs for 25 years. She spread the paperwork across her conference table. The house and life insurance would go to Diane if I died, but the old repair shop land had never been transferred when I sold the business. It was still mine alone. Cody would inherit nothing directly. Then what was the point of all this? I asked. He didn't need to inherit directly, Carolyn said. If Diane received the insurance and later handed over the shop parcel, the whole scheme comes together through her. Diane produced a manila envelope she'd found under Cody's old desk, loan forms, insurance paperwork, and 3 pages that stopped Carolyn cold. Diane's signature was real. The initials above it weren't. Page after page, Cody had swapped in forged documents among the real ones. A limited power of attorney in his favor. Temporary access to an investment account Diane didn't remember opening. Even a draft agreement granting him partial rights to the shop property he didn't own a single foot of. He used me, Diane whispered. Carolyn moved fast. The shop went into an irrevocable trust that day. The insurance beneficiary changed. Every authorization Cody had tricked out of Diane, canceled. Then one more call came in. A commercial developer had phoned Carolyn's office. Cody had already taken a $15,000 advance against land he didn't own. He wasn't waiting for me to die. He was already spending the future. That Wednesday, Cody called. "Memory does funny things as people get older," he said, easy and light. "You've been misplacing things." It wasn't an accusation. It was a seed. He wasn't only trying to kill me. He was building a fallback story for if I survived, the old man whose word couldn't be trusted. Friday, Russell brought me a tackle box. Inside weren't lures. Every photograph he'd taken under my truck, brake line to tracker, every angle. "Someday you're going to wonder if any of this was real," he said. "Keep them." Saturday, Cody threw a cookout and told the whole family he had an announcement. I parked half a block down, as Detective Heck asked. The backyard was full. Trucks lining the street, kids with water balloons, someone's Bluetooth speaker playing country music. Cody spotted me at the gate, grinning too wide. "There he is? Got some big news to share. Before you tell everyone about your new venture," I said, "shouldn't you hold title to the land first?" The grin dropped. He scrambled for the folder at his feet, just as Diane stood, holding her own envelope. "I have the original documents." The gate swung open. Detective Heck walked in behind two uniformed officers. "What's this supposed to be?" Cody said, forcing a laugh, pointing at me. "Did you call the cops because your truck needed work?" "I called the police," I said, "because someone tried to make sure I never came home again." Heck laid out the photographs, the truck's underside, the sliced hose, the tracker. Russell stepped forward. "I spent 42 years on diesel trucks. That hose didn't wear out. Somebody cut it." Cody's composure cracked for one heartbeat when I mentioned he'd asked Pete about the rear brakes before anyone had said the word brakes at all. Diane rose, hands shaking. "I found these," she said, handing over the forged documents in front of the entire family. I believed I was signing loan applications. I wasn't. He slipped forged pages in with the real ones. "Mom, don't. You forged my initials. You accessed my email. I trusted my son. I was keeping us safe." "No," she said. "You were keeping yourself safe." An officer sealed a tablet found in the guest room, messages bearing on the investigation. Carolyn stepped forward with the trust documents. "The property can't be signed over to you. The developer's been notified. They want their money back." Every scheme Cody had built dissolved in under a minute. He turned on Russell. "You were never a father to me." And Russell didn't flinch. "Maybe not. But I never told you debt gets settled by putting someone in the ground." "Cody Puit," Heck said. "You're under arrest." "Mom, please, I'll fix everything." Diane didn't move. No. 2 letters carrying 20 years of running on empty. The plea came weeks later. Vehicle sabotage, stalking, document fraud, attempted murder. Cody also admitted something worse. Before the breaks, he'd spent weeks photographing my prescription bottles, swapping labels, planting doubt with relatives about my memory, so that if the sabotage failed, the world would already believe I was too confused to be trusted. 2 layers to the plan: kill me or discredit me. I chose not to push for trial. I wanted him somewhere he couldn't reach anyone else. The financial fraud stayed on the record. He's looking at the better part of a decade. Diane and I spent 6 months apart after that. Wednesday mornings at a diner, working out new terms. No accounts I didn't know about. No paperwork signed without both of us reading it. No off-book calls with Cody. "He's my son," she said. "I know," I told her. "You can love him and still say no." She started seeing a counselor, joined a support group for parents of adult children in crisis, and sold a bracelet her mother left her to help repay what Cody had taken. When she moved back home that spring, we didn't pretend to pick up where we'd left off. We split accounts, changed passwords, put everything in writing. I kept the apartment above the old shop anyway. Some men keep a fishing cabin. I kept 2 rooms that reminded me I'd never again be held in place by fear of walking out a door. Russell and I rebuilt the Ford's brakes together on a cold February Saturday, complaining about our joints the whole time. When it was done, he made me drive it first. 2 weeks later, we took it down to Norris Lake and caught nothing worth keeping, which made it a perfectly ordinary fishing trip. It's been a year now. I still check the brakes more than I need to. Some mornings I wake up with Cody's voice in the kitchen again, calm, reasonable. That was always the part that cut deepest. Healing didn't erase that afternoon. It just stopped that afternoon from claiming every morning after it. I used to think revenge meant making Cody feel what he'd made me feel. Fear, humiliation, helplessness. I was wrong. The real revenge was living safely in the house he'd counted on taking. It was protecting what I'd spent 40 years building. It was watching Diane finally understand that love without limits can quietly become permission for cruelty. Most of all, it was refusing to accept his version of who I was. I was not confused. I was not disposable. Getting older didn't mean I owed my judgment to someone younger, louder, or more ruthless. If someone keeps moving the lines on what you agreed to, that's not a misunderstanding. That's a method. Love is never a reason to ignore evidence in front of you. Don't let age make you a soft target. Clarity is something you earn, and it's worth protecting. And if the people around you start building a story about who you are, confused, fading, easy to dismiss, stand up straight and prove every word of it wrong.